Welcome to Roots and Branches of Lehi, the podcast where we get to know the faces, stories, and lives that make up our community. I'm Ryan Harding, and I started this podcast as a way for us all to connect with the people we live alongside. Growing up in a small town, I learned that connections go beyond blood. They're built through shared experiences, friendships, and the moments we celebrate together. Each week, we'll sit down with someone new from Lehi to share their unique story, their passions, and what they love most about living here. So whether you've been here for years or just arrived, join us as we deepen our roots and reach out to our branches one story at a time. Welcome, Stephen Mack Boyack.
Right.
And welcome to the podcast. Glad you could come on. Roots and Branches of Lehi. So we're community podcast, getting to know people.
I like that. It's very kind of synonymous with what we try to do.
Yeah.
Lehi Link.
Yeah. And actually, so let's start. Well, so actually, give me a little, before we go into that part, I guess, give me a little background. You mentioned, so most of your time, I guess, raising a family and stuff like that was in California, right?
Raised all our family in California.
Yeah.
And although I grew up in Springville, so
Okay.
I do have local roots.
So yeah, you're native Utah. Yeah.
And there came a time I thought I really need to be closer to my parents.
Yeah.
And just things in California were deteriorating.
Sure.
That I felt personally.
Yeah.
And so when I was thinking of moving back at the time, I traveled a fair amount.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, folks are in Springville. I need to travel, get to the airport, and
Yeah.
kind of thought of this in between place. You know?
Yeah.
It's not Salt Lake, but
Yeah.
so at the time, actually, my friend Mark Johnson was on the city council.
Okay.
We were roommates in college.
Yeah.
Mark actually introduced me to my wife through
really?
a blind date.
Nice.
He arranged.
Okay. Good job, Mark.
Great story there. But I called Mark and just drilled him on what's so great about Lehi.
Yep.
And, he really convinced me.
Was he the mayor at the time or no?
No, it was prior
Okay.
to that.
Okay.
He was on the city council.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think. So,
Okay.
a lot of good things influenced us to move here.
Yeah. That's funny. You say halfway, I've heard a lot of people say, the people that maybe moved to Lehi just can't commit, right? Salt Lake, Provo. Okay, let's go in the middle.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of funny.
Well, there were things like Lehi owning its own electrical infrastructure.
Yeah.
Just a lot of unique things.
Yeah.
Really, to me, made the community sound like it was innovative and a little different. So
Yeah. No,
appreciated that.
I love that. And now your best buddy's the mayor too, so.
Well, we're good friends.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Love Mark.
Well, good. Well, okay. So let's jump into Lehi Link. So you started Lehi Link, right? And tell me what started with that. I mean, why did you start that? And
Sure.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I guess I was very casual user of Facebook.
Sure.
And it was kind of the time other platforms were out and
Yeah.
They were dominant measure. But when we moved here, we had a hard time getting a sense of what's going on.
Sure.
At that time, the paper wasn't printing. I guess there was a time when they were out of business.
Yeah.
Restarted a bit after, but it was just hard to find out what was going on. And it seemed that the default way of going on was you'd see banners on fences. So, there's
Yes.
this school play or,
Yeah.
sign up for softball. And
Yeah.
it was just like, come on, there's got to be a better way.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was sort of the impetus. And through a roundabout way, I found out about Facebook coming out with this groups option,
Okay.
and you could start a group based on hobby, photography group or,
Sure.
hiking group, whatever you like to do. And,
Yep.
and I looked around and there wasn't a community one. So my wife said, let's do that. Let's start it up. And she's a great community organizer. So
Yeah.
she said, let's get people from the city council, from the PTA, from the sports groups, all the different segments,
Yeah.
that would like to have an outlet to do things. And if they each get 20 or 30 people, we might get 500 people signed up. And that was sort of our stretch goal.
Sure.
If we could do that,
Yeah.
we thought we would have a good way of disseminating information, sharing information.
Yeah.
And it's just exceeded our expectations.
I was going to say, because how many users now, do you know?
We're approaching 19,000.
Okay. So good amount.
And
Yeah.
of course, Lehi's growing, Lehi's growing like that. And we're kind of
Going along with it.
paralleling that. But
Yeah.
there's plenty of room to still grow.
Well, I know I've used it many times. I know a lot of people use it. I mean, it's a good place to to your point, it's much better than a banner on a fence, I guess, right? I mean, it's getting that information out. And so how, I mean, how much work goes into that, that group and stuff like that? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
once a group is set up, you think, oh, hey, okay, it's done and stuff like that. But I mean,
Some groups, you start it and just let them run, and they might turn out okay, and they might be a disaster.
sure.
And unfortunately, Facebook doesn't do a good job of weeding out the ne'er-do-wells, the spammers, the
Yeah.
scammers.
Yeah.
And groups that are unmoderated tend to just be dumpster fires
Sure.
of, lots of problems. And we decided at one point to start moderating and vetting members. And so we spend a fair amount of time looking at profiles. Do they live in Lehi, or they work in Lehi, or have some connection to Lehi?
Yeah.
And if not, then, we say this
Sorry.
group might not be for you.
Yeah.
And people that just try to spam people, take advantage,
Yeah.
so we put some limits on that. And so we do post approval and whatnot. So that's your question. It takes a fair amount of time just to moderate the users and the posts.
Yeah. Because you got people trying to join and you're filtering those out. And then you're saying when people want to post, I mean, it's not just, hey, you're part of the group, you can post. You do have to get it approved, essentially.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure it's not, it's, you're just looking at it to make sure it's part of the group, I'm guessing. It's something that would be relevant.
Exactly. Someone, if they're advertising their business in Salt Lake, I just say, this group's
not for you.
that.
Yeah.
And say your business has to be in Lehi.
Gotcha.
Not serving Utah County.
Yeah.
In fact, I created a group called Utah County Link that I could just.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, go there.
Open. Yeah. Go put it there.
Okay.
But ours is for Lehi.
Gotcha. So in the early days, what were some of the challenges? I'm guessing the challenges you face now with 19,000 members versus, goal of 500 is different. But so what were some of the challenges in the early, if you can backtrack, I guess, a little bit to that time, what were some of the challenges in that early time?
Well, we felt from the beginning that we should let the group discuss politics, discuss, everything that was related to Lehi.
Yeah.
And because I was friends with Mark, some people saw that I was biased toward that. And I really tried to allow opposing viewpoints.
Yeah.
But I also didn't let people just continually harp on something. Make your point.
Yeah.
And, if I'm saying, hey, I like Mark,
yeah,
you can say, I like Bert.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly okay. But if you're jumping on my post saying, I hate Mark and I like Bert, no, there's
now getting more contentious. Yeah.
And so we had to kind of navigate what are the political, best practices that we could do to be fair. And, so we've gone through several elections. There's contention always.
Yeah.
But still, there has to be a place you can discuss politics.
Yeah.
And as long as it's, I guess, reasonable discourse, we're open to that.
Yeah.
I've been called a Nazi and, you're silencing me and you're not allowing free speech. But in reality, we don't have to allow free speech as a will. Like a newspaper, they curate what posts they're going to, or what letters to the editor they'll print. And in like manner, we have to do some due diligence on what we'll allow.
So maybe speak to that a little bit. How do you determine, if something's worth continuing on with and allowing them to post, and something that's like, this is getting too contentious or too, I don't know. I guess what is the criteria? What do you,
We're pretty flexible and open.
Okay.
I pretty much censure anything that is vulgar.
Sure. Okay.
And if it's repetitive, a good example was the Geneva mine, as it were.
Yeah.
The sand pit and people who lived up there. I totally understand their issues with the dust and health issues and whatnot. And anytime there was a new finding or a new report or any new information, I'm totally open to, have that, discuss that, share it. But when people would get on and just harp on the same thing over and over, I just like, it's been discussed, it's been posted. If you want to go to that post and add to it.
Stay on that thread.
Yeah, stay in the thread, but to continually try and throw posts out on a topic that's already been there, that's sort of the challenge.
Well, that makes sense. Because again, you're I guess that's one of the challenges you have is you're trying to keep it relevant and something that people want to engage in. But if they're constantly getting blown up on their feed with the same post of different things, it's like, okay, hey, I've already read that, then it's not, I don't want to keep reading this. Yeah. Let's go to the main thread because the argument's already been made against whatever you're saying here.
That's the beauty about groups is they have these threaded conversations.
Yeah.
People will go to that thread, they can add to it or, comment to their heart's delight.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But if they're jumping on someone else's post and trying to co-opt it and, take away from their expression, then, I kind of frown on that.
Sure. Well, so yeah, because I guess one of the challenges of social media nowadays is, and obviously this is not something you get to solve. This is a worldwide problem, but, on the one hand, social media, you could argue brings people closer together. And I think there's a lot of benefits of social media, right?
Yeah.
A downside, of course, is, everyone has the same microphone that maybe some people shouldn't have a microphone, And so some of the things they say and stuff like that, I guess, how do you, and maybe the answer is you can't really moderate some of those things, I guess, but how do you think Lehi Link is helping our community, come together as opposed to, creating division, I guess, too, sometimes?
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. There's always going to be contention and there's going to be topics that are, people are really involved in and trying to promote or, and as long as it's a civil discourse, and as long as we keep it kind of channeled in the right discussion threads, then that's a great thing. As far as bringing people together, I don't think there's a better place where you can go to discuss some current issues. A current one was a school district split.
Yeah.
Where else could you go,
To have relevant information, right?
And Facebook gave us a new tool called Chats.
Okay.
And so rather than having everybody, I got this new report or I went to this meeting and having a constant series of posts, the chat gives you this one kind of subgroup where people can go to talk about anything they want related to the school district.
Okay.
So we've created one for the school district. We created one for Lehi Fiber.
Okay.
How do I pick an ISP? When are they going to install it? What's that process? And people go there. And of course you can go on the city website and send them an email and 2 days later you'll hear from them. And of course they only work, 8 to 5. And
sure.
And with a crowdsourced environment, you got people answering your questions just about anytime you want.
Yeah. I love that.
How do you trade rodeo tickets?
Sure.
That's always a big one.
Yeah.
And people are like, I would need to trade nights or I want more tickets or I can't go, I want to sell them.
Yeah.
So this is a great place to just bring people together and do that.
I love that. And that's, again, what a community page should be, right? I mean, occasionally there's going to be that dialogue on maybe a contentious thing, but ideally, for the most part, it's just a place to, it's the town marketplace, right? Where you exchange ideas, where you exchange tickets, literally, right? Where you do other things like that. So
when I grew up, I guess you'd go down to the grocery store and you'd walk in and there's a cork board.
Yes.
And there would be business cards there like, this person trains dogs.
Yeah.
I need to have my dog train you, rip off a phone number.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're kind of the modern, version of that.
Yes, I agree. So how do you see Lehi Link continuing to evolve? I mean, with what you've seen Facebook doing and different things like that, but how would you like to see Lehi Link continue to be involved in the community? What things do you want to see happen, I guess, there?
I guess there's partly a continuation and expansion of what we're doing. I think that there's a lot of value in what we bring to people's lives, recommendations. When I ask my kids a question, they say, go look on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I search on YouTube and I get 40,000 things. I'm like, I can't watch all these. But being able to ask a trusted neighbor or friend, who do you like to go to as an optometrist? Or, I need to buy some tires and, just getting, a few things that are local to that rather than just relying on Google.
Yeah.
I think gives people a little more warm and fuzzy feeling.
Good. I like that. Any cool, memorable stories? I mean, again, I know, any cool stories you can think of from, that time, with you moderating and different things that you've seen on Facebook?
I think a couple of things. Remember the fire we had on Traverse Mountain?
Yes.
People were just, what do we do? Where do we go? Who evacuates? And we had a way to provide that information. you know, what areas are evacuating, where you should go, and what's going on, up to the minute stuff.
Wow.
So that was a good example. A couple months ago, there was a lost child kind of over in the west part of Lehi, getting people to come out and help search. You know, we had a couple hundred people come out.
Wow.
You know, like 9 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And I'm sure there were other people calling and looking for help, but we were a big part of that, getting people to, you know, come out and get involved.
Which I guess shows that most people want to help and be good. It's the information they need.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a page like this benefits, right?
We've had neighborhood cleanups, you know, hey, we're planting trees at this and such a park, and having people come and participate in that. And we share a lot of the stuff that the city puts out, but we have a lot more people.
Sure.
And you know, people can get together, carpool, you know, share information.
Do most people know, like, the group is searchable, right? So people can search, or can they search? Is that, you know?
Yeah.
So, and you said there's different, like, you know, let's say somebody is new to Facebook or new to just some of this technology, you know, what besides just, you know, if they subscribe and now it shows up in their feeds and stuff like that, tell me how somebody would maybe, you know, a charity event or, you know, some kind of, you know, evacuation plan, like you said, or different things like that. How would they get that information, I guess?
So partly when you're in a group, you can go into your group settings and you can say, you know, send me notifications or not. You know, I'm in some groups like a rock hounding group, and I only want to go there once in a while and look for stuff, but I don't want to see all the stuff. Yeah. And so the nice thing about a community group is you go in there and you say, you know, hey, you know, I want to be engaged. I want to know about stuff, and it'll pop up in your feed. Yeah. You know, if you're looking at your phone or your computer once in a while. Sure. And you'll see that stuff, you know, the happenings, the goings on, alerts and things like that. So that's the key way. And then the other way is a more proactive way. Like someone will say, hey, I need to have a suit altered. You know, who does that? And you could go in and post who alter suits. But the first thing you should do is click the search and type alteration. And you'll see, oh, someone asked the question last week. And I know Betty does that. And she lives down the street.
Why ask it again if it's already been answered?
Yeah. Well, and I reject a lot of posts if it's been answered. If it's been asked recently, I'll say, please.
Just search it.
Yeah, search it.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure. Yeah, so we're now giving recommendations for, a suit every week, right? You know, I guess it's like, just go search that again.
Because partly I don't want to bomb the 18,000 people getting repeated queries about the same thing.
Which I think, you know, hey, I'm grateful that there is somebody actually, you know, moderating that part of it, because you are probably helping us not get spammed with, not that somebody asking a question like that is spam necessarily, but it's repetitive. Yeah, exactly. It's, well, you know, and if you're trying to keep it relevant information and really something that people want to look at, I think that's very smart to keep doing.
Typically, if someone asks, they'll get 15, 20 responses, you know, in a few hours.
Yeah, sure. It's
a pretty good turnaround, I think.
That is pretty good turnaround. No, I agree. So have there been any unexpected outcomes from, you know, creating this group? Anything unexpected happen that you were like, oh, I didn't see that coming?
I think one is the size of the group. We, you know, hoped for 500 people. And, and it's now, you know, I'm adding, you know, a couple hundred people a month.
Wow.
But I'm rejecting a couple hundred people a month too.
Okay. So it could be even bigger, I guess.
And so it takes time to vet and go through those. So that's the next thing, is the time involved. Had no idea.
Sure.
The amount of time and effort.
Yeah.
I'm even on vacation, you know, I have to get, you know, that's a dumpster fire. Got to take care of it.
Okay.
Just clean up on aisle 7 kind of thing.
Sure.
So,
because are you, you know, in your personal life, are you retired? You working? Tell me where you're at.
Retired a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Adobe bought my company.
Okay.
It was a company based here in Lehi called Workfront.
Okay.
Adobe acquired us, another Lehi company.
Yeah.
Kind of during COVID and everything. And so I stayed with them a couple of years, and
as that transition.
Get my retirement. I had this feng shui date too. I just thought it's perfect.
It's a great date.
And Adobe screwed it up by offering stock options that wouldn't vest until after.
Smart.
So I had to stay a couple more months to get the stock options.
So you didn't get to do the 2/22/22.
No, April Fools instead.
Okay. There you go.
That was still a good day.
That's funny.
But so I'm retired now. So it's a little easier to to manage the group. And I've got a few other groups that I do as well.
Do you think your background, with that company played into your role of doing this? I mean, is there some overlap?
I'm a techie, a
Yeah.
nerd.
Yeah.
And, so I've always liked those type of things.
Sure.
Before anybody knew what email was, maybe I'm dating myself. My company, I worked for Digital Equipment Corporation, and they were one of the first implementers of email after the military DARPA system.
Okay.
And so I can remember like, oh, this is going to be big.
Yeah.
This is going to be, put the post office out of business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not quite.
Yeah.
But, I saw things like that as being, leaps and bounds. And of course, then Facebook and things happen.
Yeah.
So it's always been something I like to do.
Yeah. What, I guess switching gears a little bit from Lehi Link, but to Lehi still, obviously, you live here, you enjoy this place. What things would you like to see, happen in this community, as far as, kind of in the future and stuff like that? You're not the mayor, you're not on the city council or anything like that. So, but
I kind of wish there was some way we could do something with downtown.
Okay.
To make it more downtown as a destination.
Sure.
I told Mark, I said, hey, I got an idea for you. I said, if you made Main Street for like 8 or 10 blocks, walkable only.
Yeah.
He says, well, where are we at with the traffic? I said, a tunnel.
Sure. Oh,
go right underneath it. And then up above, it's park, it's walkable, it's store shops. And I said, just solve the water table issue.
Yes,
we got pumps.
And we could do that. I like that.
So, I go to other small cities, relatively small, Bernal.
Yeah.
We go up there a lot.
Okay.
And, they have this just nice downtown stuff. And that's what I would like to see Lehi kind of figure out.
I like that. Walkable downtown with tunnels underneath it. So I guess we could get Elon Musk's boring company, right? To have him come out here and, make it work. So,
Elon's probably the guy to do it.
It's probably the guy to do it. We got him.
Blind it with concrete and you'd be fine.
Yeah. Hey, they build tunnels under oceans right now, right?
That's
so,
right.
So the water table must not be
insurmountable.
That's not a bad idea. I like that.
Different anyway.
Anything else you see? Any other things?
When we lived in California, we lived through 2 horrendous wildfires.
Okay.
Near the magnitude of what they're going through now.
Yeah.
Our community lost over 1,100 homes.
Oh, wow.
And the second one, I think, was even bigger.
Okay.
4 years later. And we kind of learned as a family and as a community that you got to prepare for these unexpected events.
Yeah.
And when we moved here, we kind of looked around like, what are the things we should worry about? Wildfire wasn't really one of them. We got a little brush on the hill, but not that big a deal. Flooding, people that live near the creek a little bit.
Sure.
Our big one is the earthquake.
Yeah.
And we've gone to some seminars with experts on the topic, and they said we're overdue.
Yeah.
For a 7.0 or greater earthquake, which would devastate not just Lehi, but the whole Wasatch Front.
Correct.
And if that lets loose in our lifetime, it's going to be a big, big thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think the people are ready. And I don't think our city leaders are quite dialed into what it's going to be.
Sure.
So that's kind of the drum I beat. I started a prepper group, Lehi Preppers.
Sure. Yeah.
And I joined Lehi's CERT team.
Okay.
And I'm the assistant director there. And so we teach preparedness classes and everything from first aid to putting out fires, working with the fire and police and the first responders and stuff.
And so then, let's speak to that for a second. So somebody that's just normal guy, has a family or something like that. What advice would you give, to them as far as, say, hey, they don't have a huge budget, right? Or something like that, but hey, are there some things I can do to better prepare for that emergency, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say being self-sufficient, figuring out what you need to be self-sufficient for 72 hours.
Okay.
Because it will take first responders. We have, of anyone in Utah County, I think our fire department's the best prepared. We have 4 fire stations.
Yeah.
Where I lived in Springville, we only have 1.
Yeah.
But if we have more than 4 fires, which we will, it's going to be neighbors. When we were in California, my son and his friends were going around putting out house fires.
Wow.
And it was neighbors on roofs, helping neighbors.
Sure.
What do you need to take to evacuate?
Yeah.
One of my good friends down there, police came through and said, you have 30 minutes to evacuate. And your brain goes to mush.
Yeah.
And he grabbed his barbecue and he grabbed his television and other things that who gives a rip about.
You're like, you chose.
But he forgot his mementos, his photos, documents. Those all burned. So I was burned to the ground. So being prepared and knowing what you need to do and being self-sufficient for 72 hours, say, are key. And there's a lot of great resources to teach you what you need and how to do. And you can do it on a limited budget, adding things as you go.
Yeah.
And just getting a little bit prepared.
Sure. And you said great resources and stuff like that. I think does the state have something on earthquake stuff? Or,
They do,
where are some of these resources, I guess,
FEMA
Okay.
Has some great stuff. BeReady.org or something. And Utah has Be Ready Utah.
Okay.
And so there's checklists that you can look at. There's, information on what to do to get ready. And we try to distill a lot of that in our Lehi preppers and help people, what kind of generator should I buy? And how much of this or that should I have on hand?
Good.
So it's a good resource.
Again, just doing things because that day may come, right? Some kind of emergency may come. And so you're saying, hey, there's probably some things we can do to be a little more prepared. There's a lot we can do. Yeah.
And our civic leaders, day-to-day stuff, they do a great job. But in this area, I think we could do more to be better prepared.
And if people want to, I guess, you mentioned the resources and stuff like that, I guess, but anything else people can do or any other things you can think about?
I would say join our group, Lehi Preppers, but also look at Lehi CERT. I'm an assistant director. I built the website for Lehi CERT. It's LehiCERT.org.
Okay.
CERT means the Community Emergency Response Team.
Oh, okay.
And we provide training courses twice a year, where you can learn more about getting prepared. And some people just come, get trained, and that's great. They go and they're a resource to their family. Other people have time and inclination and can support us as we support the city. And so when the first responders are overwhelmed or need backup or help, they would call on us. So at least a limited amount of training.
And so when you say, getting trained and stuff like that, this is trained for, elaborate on that, or what are you talking about? What are they training for? Is it like able to do CPR? Is this like able to put out a fire? Is this all the above?
All the above.
Okay.
To a limited degree.
Okay.
We're not going in conflagrations of households to rescue people.
Yeah.
But in smaller fires and things like that, we have training in how to put them out. We are trained in how to extricate people from, their stuff falling on them.
Okay.
The safe and proper way to do that. We're trained in first aid, and how to deal around hazards and all sorts of things. So it's great training.
Okay, good. Switching gears a little bit, as we kind of conclude here, I guess, but, obviously you're very civic minded, right? And I like, you're looking for ways to kind of help things, right? You got obviously doing this thing with helping with natural disasters, obviously the Lehi link and doing that. What advice do you have to somebody that's, hey, I like our community, I want to do something too? What advice do you have on, as far as somebody just looking to make a difference in the community, ranging from, I got 5 minutes, to, hey, I got a little more time.
Well, we have people on Lehi Link that volunteer to say, hey, it's snowing. If you need help pulling your car out of a stuck thing,
okay,
hit me up.
Okay.
We'll come in my 4x4 and pull you out of the ditch.
That's awesome.
So a lot of people volunteer proactively on things. Other times we have people asking for volunteers, help at this or that, the senior center, various projects that are going on. We've done a couple as our group saying, hey, we're going to do a cleanup on this street.
Mm-hmm.
Someone will say, hey, I noticed this really needs some attention. And we'll just say, hey, Saturday morning, 8:00, who can come and help? And we've had good turnout to those kind of things. If someone wants to start their own group for a particular thing, there's no limit to the amount of groups that you can create.
Yeah.
You can even call it Lehi Link.
Hey, sure. Let's do it again.
I would say think about the time investment there, because a lot of people create them and and they just don't give them the attention they need, and they turn into a spam and scam fest.
Gotcha.
And people leave.
And then, because it's not what they signed up for.
Yeah.
So, okay. Anything else that we haven't covered that you wanted to cover?
Well, I think, our overarching goal is really just to make Lehi be a better place to live, to work, to play, foster community spirit.
Yeah.
It's kind of that, where you can go to make your own stump speech about what you want to do.
Yeah.
The town square kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, I would say no topic is verboten as far as we keep it classy.
Yeah. Keep it classy.
We call it family friendly.
Yeah.
And if you can discuss any topic in a family friendly way, it's welcome. And people sometimes say, we shouldn't discuss politics. We shouldn't discuss this or that. And we tend to think otherwise. It should be. We have friends who say, our family never discussed politics. Our family has always discussed them.
Yeah.
They can be contentious. Feelings can be hurt.
Yeah.
We try to do our best to make sure it's on the up and up.
Good. Well, I think that is, some topics need to be discussed. They're hard to discuss because people have very strong opinions on different sides sometimes, right? But I think if you can discuss them in a loving way and where you're both conscious that the other person has some points. I don't know, I've had good discussions with people that sit on the different side of the aisle, politically than me and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, we're actually maybe a little more alike than I thought. You know what I mean? Like, cause again, we're not, I think sometimes people, the media maybe or different things like that, make people seem like we're always against each other. And it's like, hey, we actually probably agree on more things than we think. Right. And so I think that's why good discussion is good.
Sure.
To have, right?
And I've had my mind changed on things.
Sure.
Like discussing a bond or
Sure.
tax, or things like that, rather than just seeing the little yard signs and making your mind up based on what color the yard sign is and how many of them there are. Being able to hear the pros and the cons and argue back and forth in a spirited, but in a
civil way,
I think is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And I think our group is the perfect place for that.
Good. Well, again, I think we need a place like that, right? Because we need a place where we can, because again, you brought up the school district. I think that was I saw many things on there and it was good to see, especially people trying to get, hey, here's this is not just opinion. This is like, hey, here's what actually, is coming from a reputable source and stuff like that. And because you get a lot of opinions sometimes on there, right?
And we had people on both sides,
yes.
Teachers on either side, administrators. And the one area where we tried to hold at bay was people from other communities.
Okay.
Joining our group and this is a Lehi discussion.
Yeah.
And welcome any opinion if you're from Lehi.
Yeah.
And likewise for businesses, we want to promote Lehi businesses, and so we don't want to promote plumbers in Orem.
Sure.
But if someone asks for a recommendation and someone says, oh yeah, we go to Joe's Plumbing in Orem and he helps us out, that's great.
Sure.
But as far as a business being self-promoting, we limit that to Lehi.
To Lehi still. Because again, you're trying to promote Lehi, trying to help.
That's right.
I like that. Okay. Stephen, anything else this has been very good. Yeah. I think this is a very good resource for Lehi, and I'm glad you're willing to put the time into it too. I guess that's maybe something that, surprises me a little bit about how much time actually goes into a page like that. Because you just assume it works naturally and to prevent a lot of, like you said, the spamming and different things like that.
You can tell the difference between groups.
Sure.
People come up to me, when they, I go my nom de guerre or Stephen Mack, my middle name.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, you're using a fake name. It's on my birth certificate.
Yeah.
But I do that for reasons that I have family members very involved in other things.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to set that aside.
Sure.
But when people find out I moderate the group and we started the group, they thank me. This is the greatest resource, you know. And of the 18,000+ members we have, there's some that are very active. There's a lot that are just consuming and getting information and they're silent, but they get a lot of value out of it. Can be something for everybody.
Well, that's probably me most of the time. I just consume it's good information and stuff like that. So, although I guess I've posted a few things now with this, with the podcast going on, but
no, it's great. I see it very complimentary to what we do. And same with the Lehi newspaper. We were
Yeah.
thrilled when they started back up.
Yes.
And I told you that I have post approval on, but I give automatic post approval to certain people.
Sure.
Like if the mayor needs to get a message out, he doesn't need to wait for me to get out of bed. Or,
Sure.
I probably check 20 times a day, probably more. But if I'm hiking in the backcountry and I don't have internet for a few hours, I want to be sure that certain people, so the emergency managers, the city council, the mayor, the police department, fire department, school district people, we give them carte blanche.
Sure. Because you can trust them.
Level of trust.
Exactly right. Yeah. Which again that's the benefit of a community. That's a small, we're not a small town per se, but in some ways we have a lot of the small town benefits, I guess,
It's a small town feel.
the small town feel.
But I don't want to be an impediment to getting information to people.
Yeah.
You
Good.
know?
Love that. Well, again, great resource. I'm glad we have it. I think it's doing a lot of good, and unfortunately, I think sometimes people remember more the bad, right? The contentious stuff and stuff like that. But that's part of being a part of a community, I guess, right? And having some of these
differing
things.
opinions, can create
Some of that.
But we do our best to try to keep it civil and give everybody their say.
Yeah.
Whatever party you represent, whatever you think.
Yeah.
Happy to hear it.
Yeah. Good. Thanks, Steven. Appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you. It's about your doing this, and I think going forward will be a great resource and complementary to what people want to know about our community.
Well, that's the goal. The goal is to, I like people. So the more people we can get to know and just, get a feel for, what this great community is doing. And
in another 20, 30, 40 years, we can be considered old timers.
That's right. You and I are both transplants. So
11 years, I'm not an old timer. Still new. But we love Lehi.
We do too. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming on.
You bet. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you for joining us on Roots and Branches of Lehi. I hope today's story helped you feel a little more connected to the people who make up our community. Remember, every person here has a unique story, and together, we're what makes Lehi feel like home. If you know someone who would be a great fit for this podcast, please fill out the form in the show notes so we can reach out and schedule an interview. We'd love to hear from you. A big thank you to our sponsors, the Work Harding Home Mortgage Team and Play Harding Nightly Vacation Rentals, for supporting this show and helping us bring our community closer together. Until next time, keep growing those roots and reaching out to your branches. Take care.